Now? Okay, Mr. Moon, you're good.
Okay. Welcome. I hereby call to order the January 2021 regular school board meeting of the Crestwood School Board of Directors. Following the Pledge of Allegiance, I ask that we observe a moment of silence for three people. Karen Green, the mother of junior Crestwood student Nash Green, Tanner Kalu, former Crestwood student athlete, and Charles Mitke, former Crestwood teacher and the boys basketball coach when the school district was formed. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which stands
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
for liberty
and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Ms. Bibla?
Here.
Mr. Brogna?
Here.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Here.
Mrs. McGovern?
Here.
Mrs. Spath? Here. Mr. Swank? Mr. Swank?
Present.
Mr. Costello?
Here.
Mrs. Haddix?
Here.
And Mr. Boone?
Here.
9 members present.
Okay. We had an executive session prior to tonight's board meeting in regards to contracts, personnel actions, and pending litigation. We will be seeking approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 3rd, 2020, and we will be seeking approval of the treasurer's report for November and December of 2020. Do we have any correspondence? No. Okay, at this time, our superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. And this month we certainly have suffered a lot of loss. And I just do also want to mention that in December, the district also had another very big loss in Jackie Johnson. She has twin seniors here at our school. Just amazing person. And I want to send my condolences to the family and let them know that, of course, we are here for them at any time. So, Mr. Boone, I just wanted to mention that as well. I also, Mr. Boone, later on in our agenda, there will be a motion to approve a retirement for Michelle Pavlik. Michelle is one of our hardworking custodians. She has been here for 20 years. And she will be leaving us soon. So I want to congratulate her on behalf of the entire district. I want to wish her a very healthy, prosperous retirement and one that really lets her enjoy the golden years, as they call it. So, Michelle, thank you so much. You did a super job in our secondary campus here. Since we've closed, she's continued to work and do everything that she could do, especially to keep our kids and our staff as safe as possible during COVID. So with that, I would like to invite Mrs. Peg Foster to give a little bit of updates on our some of our curricular items in the secondary campus. Mrs. Foster.
Thanks, Mr. Mahalik. I have 2 updates that are really timely for us. The first is that our PSAT testing is scheduled for next Tuesday, the 26th of January, and we were overwhelmed by the positive response to this offering. We have never had this many students turn out in just wanting to participate in this test. So that very fact, combined with the additional piece that some of our student athletes are under quarantine at this time, we're going to open another test session for all those that were not able to fit within this first testing on January 26th. So that additional test session will be in mid-February. The date is pending College Board agreements and arrangements and shipping of the tests from college boards to us. But it's a good problem to have. It makes me proud to know that so many kids and so many families in Crestwood want to take the PSATs and move forward in their education. That's a point of strength, and that's a testament to our Crestwood community. So kudos to all of you. The second is another set of kudos, is that we are in the process of starting our very first WVIA Scholastic Scrimmage Bowl team. This team will compete against other teams within the Northeast PA area around all academic content areas. The team of 4 will go head-to-head in a format very similar to Jeopardy, except you don't have to answer in the form of a question. But the answers are all around academics. It'll be things from high-level math to social studies, civics, to the proper formation of English and grammar sentences. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. We're currently soliciting faculty advisors for the program, and as soon as we get those teachers set up and ready to roll, we'll look for kids to join our first ever Scholastic Bowl team. So 2 exciting pieces of news, really strong supporters for our academic program. Thank you very much, Mr. Mahalik. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mrs. Foster. We're very much looking forward to the Scholastic Scrimmage. Can't wait to watch it. Of course, they will be doing it this year, WVIA. There will be social distancing in place, but we're so excited. And thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Ambosi, who really made sure that we got this off the ground with you. So I thank you both tremendously. And of course, Mr. Gorham, who's always there for anything that's related to our students. So at this time, Mr. Boone, what I'd like to do is just to direct our attention to a recommendation that I have for our reopening. I know this is something that everyone in the community is waiting and wanting to know more about. We have spent a lot of time, and when I say we, it's our administration team, looking to see what do we believe gives our students the best opportunity to return and be as safe as possible and be as consistent with the delivery of our instruction. We did attempt, as everyone knows, in October to come back. And while I would say it was not as consistent as we hoped, because we did have a lot of situations related with COVID, nonetheless, it did prepare us for an eventual return again. So my recommendation, okay, and this is my recommendation based upon data that I have, that my administration team has helped devise with the data that they have collected, and working very closely with the with our pandemic team and looking at our continued infection rate of spread here in Luzerne County. Mr. Blanchard, if you could put up right now what I am recommending as our reopening plan. Mr. Blanchard will share this on our screen. Thank you, Mr. Blanchard. Okay. On February 8th, we would like to return our students with low incidence disabilities. These are our precious students, our autistic support students, our life skills students. And we were very successful with these students in the beginning of the school year. The kids did tremendous, and we believe on February 8th, we could bring them back safely. And with that, we do feel that the most, if not all, of the staff working with them will be vaccinated, which will give everyone, I believe, a layer of confidence that we could be continuing with this program. On February 17th, we would like to return our elementary learning support students. Remote elementary learning support students, again, are students with special needs. And the focal point would be to work with these two groups and have still, again, a slower rollout, watching to see and expecting and hoping those numbers to lessen in terms of the infection rate in our county. On March 1st, we would begin with our elementary students K-2. And at the same time, we would be bringing back selected targeted high school students. And when we talk about targeted high school students, that would be, again, looking at students with special needs and special circumstances. March 8th, we would return our elementary students in grades 3 to 6. Again, this would be in the hybrid model. And on April 6th, we would then be returning our high school students from grades 7 through 12. That would, again, be at the hybrid model, but our hope would be at that time that we could be full-time with all of our students. Now, there's still a lot of variables in this plan. And I also want to say that March 1st date, returning our elementary students, we are hoping could be sooner. We could be prepared to have them back sooner. We would be looking again at what the current county rate of infection is and the impact it is having on us specifically. As most of you know, weekly I send out a dashboard to show the COVID-19 situations that we are dealing with. And over the last 2 weeks, we have had, again, some cases that have affected our faculty and have affected our students. We are expecting to see these cases lessen. We are hoping that they are lessened. And if they should lessen much quicker than anticipated, that March 1st could be much earlier in February, which is our hope. Again, the ultimate goal here is to keep everyone safe. The ultimate goal here is to bring back our students in the most consistent manner. Bring them back, February 2nd and go out February 4th, for 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, whatever that might be. We do not believe that provides them the consistency that they need and deserve, or provides them what they're getting now in our fully virtual model. I want to also state to our families that we know the social piece is very, very large, and that it's been lacking, of course, virtually. Not that they're not socializing with their family and their siblings and their loved ones that are closest to them, but it's not the same as being in school. What we also found, and what a lot of my colleagues tell me, is that the socialization piece is much, much different, even when we return to school. Wearing masks, needing to distance, a lot of students choosing to remain virtual. It's not what our students remember. And that's the one thing a lot of the students said to me as I saw and was able to work with them or speak with them when they came back in October and November. It wasn't as fun as it was prior to last March 13th. So we understand that. We want to get our kids back. We believe this right here, which is my recommendation, gives us the very best chance to get our students back and to bring them back in a manner where it might be a lot like they remember. And we could start loosening some of those. I know the 6 feet will always be in place, and at least for the foreseeable future. And the masks, again, for the foreseeable future. But it might be where the cases aren't as high and we're not constantly looking who was sick, who had a case, who was disruptive, who needs to go and have their class in the auditorium because their teacher's home at sick, their teacher's home sick or had a direct exposure. That's what we're hoping. And again, I just want to point out that if we see that rate of infection lessen sooner than we anticipate, that March 1st date, which is our return for our elementary K-2 students, we will absolutely bring them back sooner. So with that, Mr. Boone, I certainly would have expect any feedback or recommendations from our faculty, our staff, our community, and certainly we'll work through them as I receive them, Mr. Boone.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik, for that report. Moving on, solicitors report.
All right. No report at this time, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now get to our committee reports, and after we go through the committee reports, we will take public testimony before we go to the voting session. Financial planning, Mr. Brogna.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. I'll be seeking a motion and approval for items 1 through 15. I'd like to point out item number 2 on the Financial Planning Committee agenda, which we discussed at length at the committee meeting, is a resolution that does not allow our school board to approve a tax increase above what the state recommended index is. That is not to say that either the board will accept that specific number or that there will be guaranteed tax increase. However, the resolution is appropriate at this point so that we cannot authorize an increase above that index. And I also want to point out item 3, which is an exceptional audit report from Baker Tilly. So again, I'll be seeking items 1 through 15 for motion and approval.
Thank you. Transportation, Ms. Spath.
There's no agenda items this month.
Okay. Mr. Costello, policy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be seeking approval for the recommendation of the third reading and adoption of policy 253 transgender.
Thank you. Human Resources, Mrs. McGovern.
Thank you. I will be seeking a motion to approve items 1 through 7.
Thank you. Mrs. Bibla, Academic Programs.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. I will be seeking approval for items 1 through 6.
Thank you. Co-curricular, Mr. Swank.
Yes, I will be seeking approval of items 1 through 3.
I believe there's a 4.
David, could you scroll down? Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Well, wait a minute here.
I thought that was in HR. That's why I said that.
Okay, yeah, it was moved.
So,
The name, we have to correct the name on number 4. It's Amy, VITI.
VD.
V, Victor.
Yes. So again, I will seek approval of items 1 through 4.
Okay, thank you. Physical plant has no items at this time. Technology, Mrs. McCurdy.
Yes, I will be seeking a motion to approve items numbers 1 and 2.
Thank you. Intermediate, Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. The intermediate unit 18 minutes are on file in the superintendent's office and on the district website. The January LIU meeting is that's upcoming Wednesday, January 27th, 2021 in the LIU boardroom.
Thank you. Mrs. McCurdy, Wilkes-Barre Area Career and Technical Center.
Barry, I have that report.
Oh, okay, thank you. Go, Mrs. Haddix.
$18,185 of CARES Act money was approved to purchase all necessary for remote proctoring. $20,000 of state education grant was awarded to the Wilkes-Barre CTC The Wilkes-Barre CTC was the only Luzerne CTC to get part of the $1.2 million. Also, the Wilkes-Barre Future Farmers of America Club committed their expertise to create 15 wreaths for the Wreaths for Heroes project. These wreaths were placed at cemeteries throughout the Wyoming Valley to honor all veterans. And lastly, Pennsylvania Builders Association Workforce Training and Education Committee reapproved the construction programs for another 3 years. That's all.
Thank you. Do we have any public testimony on agenda items?
On agenda items, Mr. Blanchard.
Nothing on agenda, only on your report.
Okay, non-agenda
Okay,
items.
so we'll take those at the end of the agenda. Wonderful.
Do we want that now, non-agenda items?
You want to go through the agenda and then do the questions,
work
Mr. Boone?
section.
Whatever you.
Jack's trying to talk.
You're muted, Jack.
He keeps going back on mute. Something's wrong with his.
All right, so I'm back.
There you go.
We need to take in work session public comments. There were none on agenda items. So you could either, your option, you need to go through non-agenda items at this point because we don't vote on the agenda items till the regular meeting.
Okay. So non-agenda.
Non-agenda items, take questions on that there.
Yes.
Okay. We have a question from Molly Lasowski Verbila. I apologize if I killed that name. Can you answer this? Why is sports more important than getting my children the education they deserve? If we can't get the kids to school, then they shouldn't be able to hold sporting events, thus driving up the instances of spreading to continue.
Molly, thank you. And that is certainly that's a feeling that is shared amongst a lot of people throughout the state. And again, I will say that the recommendation to continue sports was made by the PIAA. They are that is the governing body over sports, and they made that recommendation. And for me, I take this away from our kids. Our kids, as you know, have lost a lot. So we are trying our very best to keep our students safe in sports. We are able to have them fill out a questionnaire. They are taking temperatures before each practice. The kids and coaches are trying to do their very best to not put themselves in a position where they're possibly going to be infected, but it's still happening. So I understand your concerns, and it's shared by many, but the PIAA was, there was a lot of people that were asking them to delay so we can get the cases a little more under control and maybe start the winter season a little bit later, but that didn't happen. And so we're trying to do our very, very best for everybody to have the best virtual education, and for those students that participate in extracurriculars to still have that opportunity as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. There were a couple questions regarding the same thing, so I'll just kind of sum them all together. The other question, Amanda Lukaszewski, what happened with the state's recommendation on having them back end of January, and you're not letting them come back until March?
Mm-hmm. So again, the state recommendation was a broad recommendation for the entire state. In that recommendation, it also was strongly recommended that every district would look at their specific situation and make the very best decision for the district. So there are some areas of the state right now, the cases are very, very low. And there are other situations where they're higher, but Luzerne County continues to be one of those areas that are very, very high. So again, in that recommendation, that did say at the start of the next marking period, bring back your elementary students. It was if the situation in your district is real conducive to that. And again, I'm trying to do the very best to give our kids the chance to come back and stay back, and everybody stay healthy. And again, when I say everybody, I've got to look beyond our students and look to our staff and to our people in our community. So we are going to be bringing back our at-need students very, very early in the beginning of the next marking period, and then roll that out. And hopefully that that slow start, a conservative start, allows us the best opportunity to get through the remainder of this school year without having to go back to fully virtual.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. Jamie Rosh Halpin asked if we could please do a poll of the community, like discussed last time, as families agree hybrid does not work and want full time back.
Yeah, and again, I mean, right now, we couldn't bring full time back because we would have to provide 6 feet of distance. Again, that's in every guideline, and there is really no wiggle room around that. So I would be, and the district would be extremely liable if I knowingly put kids and staff in a situation where they were not 6 feet apart, and I should have something happen, whether it be an illness, whether it be worse than an illness, that would be totally on me. There is enough science that states you need to provide 6 feet. A full return right now is not possible because we would not have 6 feet.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. Jeff Cunagel, why can St. Jude's within our community go back full time with no health or safety issues and our school district can't?
I'm not really familiar with St. Jude's. I'm not sure of how many students they have in their classroom. I'm not sure how many students they have in their lunchroom, on their, but I would just assume that it's much less students. And again, I'm concerned really about Crestwood. Certainly our neighbors, Sister Mary Ellen, we do as much as we can do with them, but I can't look at other districts. I can look at the data that we have and make that very best determination as I see fit for our students.
Thank you. Amanda Madrofsky, the Journal of the American Medical Association posted the following yesterday. Things are not looking good for kids right now. As of January 14th, over 2.5 million U.S. children have tested positive for COVID-19. The American Academy of Pediatrics reports, moved on to me. Some 211,000 children were diagnosed between January 7th and the 14th. The largest single week increase since the pandemic began. Overall, the COVID-19 rate among U.S. children is 3,336 cases per 100,000. In states with mortality data, 0 to 0.6% of all children cases resulted in death. I think that was just a comment on her behalf, Mr. Rock.
Yeah, and thank you, Amanda, for sharing that. And thank goodness the mortality rate is still way down. But yes, the infection rate in children and students is increasing. And I think we're learning more and more about that. That certainly is weighing in. We are getting cases. And sadly, unfortunately, we've had some students that were sick in our district and some that needed to be hospitalized. And that certainly weighs in on this because, again, we're trying to do the very, very best. And I get the hardships this is on our families. Please know I do. And it may sound like words, and I know we're all COVID fatigued, but we're so close. We're so close. And I believe that we are, the light is shining bright, and we're almost there, folks. And if we can hang together, stay together, get through one more month, hopefully these rates will at least decrease by 50%. And hopefully, a lot more people will be vaccinated. The rollout is happening. And for your loved ones at home, your parents that have conditions, your grandparents that may live with our kids, you know, if they're vaccinated and our kids should bring something home, you know, we're all going to feel better here at the district. And, you know, I'm not living in fear. I'm trying to live in the very best way to keep our community as safe as possible, because we're in a very heavy surge right now. But again, the timing with the vaccinations, we've have some staff members already vaccinated, and we are expecting more very, very shortly.
Thank you, Ms. Mahalik. I'd just like to read a quick comment from one of our juniors, Kelsey Reinheimer. As a junior in the high school, I miss school, and I just cannot wait to get back in person, whether it's hybrid or full. But the virtual doesn't work as well for students as it does others. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading it. The faculty is trying their best, but as soon as we're able to go back, we should.
Kelsey, thank you. We want that. We want that as well. And I'm so glad to hear our students and that our students are engaged tonight. There's probably a lot of things they can be doing. And the fact that they're, you know, a part of this process, that means the world to us, Kelsey. Kelsey, right now, at April 6th, and I know that sounds so far away, and I'm hoping it's sooner, but it will be no later. So, you know, please, Kelsey, stay positive. If there's something we can do for you, something you do for your friends, if you know students that are struggling emotionally, mentally, please, Kelsey, reach out on their behalf, or please encourage them to reach out to any one of us, myself, Mrs. Foster, Mr. Gorham, any one of our guidance counselors, because we know there is a lot there, and we are all here wanting to do as much as we can. And we know we are coming up on a year of this, but we're so close. We are so close to all being back to as normal as, you know, this is going to let us be.
Thank you, Mr. Mahalik. Question from Becky Lee Bailey in regards to the February 8th. Hold on, it moved on me massively. I apologize. In regards to the February 8th return for autistic and life skills students, when can we expect more information on class times and locations, as well as transportation schedules?
That will be provided to you absolutely very shortly. I will let our supervisor of behavioral programs discuss that with you. So please reach out to Mrs. Harris, or in fact, you know what, let's do this. First of all, let me say the class times are going to be probably exactly the same as they were. Bus schedules will be the same. Class times will be the same. But that was a while ago, and you may have forgot what those were. So if you can, please, Damien, if you would get her information, and we'll make sure we reach out tomorrow to her.
Okay, I will. That's all the questions.
Okay. Well, thank you again so much to our community for all that they do. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll begin the voting session. I will be seeking a motion and approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 3rd, 2020.
Motion.
Barry, we have to do a roll call for regular meeting. I'm sorry.
Okay. Roll call.
Ms. Bibla.
Here.
Mr. Brogna.
Here.
Mrs. McCurdy.
Here.
Mrs. McGovern.
Here.
Mrs. Spath. Here. Mr. Swank.
Here.
Mr. Costello.
Here.
Mrs. Haddix.
Here.
Mr. Boone.
Here.
9 members present.
He's in.
Okay, thank you. Now, at this time, we'll be seeking a motion and a second for approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of December 3rd, 2020.
Motion, Mr. Brogna.
Second, Mr. Swank.
Roll call.
Ms. Bibla.
Yes.
Mr. Brogna.
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy.
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern.
Yes.
Mrs. Spath.
Yes.
Mr. Swank.
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix? Mrs.
Yes.
Haddix? Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Be seeking a motion and a second for approval of the treasurer's report of November and December of 2020.
Motion.
Second.
Roll call.
Ms. Bibla?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern?
Yes.
Mrs. Spath?
Yes.
Mr. Swank?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
And Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Financial planning, Mr. Brogna.
Thank you, Mr. Boone. I'll be seeking a motion and approval of items 1 through 15.
Motion.
Motion by Mrs. McCurdy, second.
Second, Mr. Swank.
Second, Mr. Swank. Roll call.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern?
Yes.
Mrs. Spath?
Yes.
Mr. Swank?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
And Mr. Boone?
Under item 1, I recuse myself on check number 652. Yes on all other items.
Motion carried.
Policy, Mr. Costello.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'll be making the motion to recommend the consideration and approval of the following: the third reading and adoption of policy 253, transgender. I so move.
Second.
Second.
Swank.
Ms. Bibla?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern?
Yes.
Mrs. Spath?
Yes.
Mr. Swank?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
And Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Human Resources, Mrs. McGovern.
I'm seeking a motion to approve items 1 through 7.
Motion, Bibler.
Second, Spath.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern?
Yes.
Mrs. Spath?
Yes.
Mr. Swank?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Academic programs, Mrs. Bibla.
I'm seeking approval for items 1 through 6. I so move.
Second, Mrs. McGovern.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy?
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern?
Yes.
Mrs. Spath?
Yes.
Mr. Swank?
Yes.
Mr. Costello?
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix?
Yes.
Mr. Boone?
Yes.
Can you just tell me who's second that motion? I'm sorry.
Mrs. McGovern.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you. Motion carried.
Okay. Co-curricular, Mr. Swank.
I'll make a motion to approve items 1 through 4. I so move.
Second, Brogna.
Mrs. Bibla?
Yes.
Mr. Brogna?
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mrs. Spath,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Technology, Mrs. McCurdy?
I make a motion to seek approval for items 1 and 2. I so move.
Second, Mrs. Spath.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mrs. Spath,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. We have our intermediate unit. We've gone over that. The minutes are on file. Next meeting is January 27th. Our Career and Technical Center minutes are on file in the superintendent's office and on the website. Next meeting is Monday, January 25th. I want to thank all who were involved and participating tonight. We certainly enjoy having you with us. And at this time, I need a motion for adjournment.
Motion, Spath.
Second, Swank.
Ms. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Brogna,
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. McGovern,
Yes.
Mrs. Spath,
Yes.
Mr. Swank,
Yes.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
Mrs. Haddix,
Yes.
and Mr. Boone.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. We'll see you next month.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.